did have an extra sort of note on the Acts 17:26 thing about Paul sort of setting the times and appointed places for different peoples. And I think it's interesting because what Bob Jones University at the very least assumed what that meant was, well, that was because God didn't want the people mixing. He wanted nations to be distinct for all time throughout history. But those borders have changed and peoples have mixed throughout history.
Right.
During Paul's time, Rome broke down as many of these boundaries as they could so they could create an empire. But Paul tells us in the next verse what God was actually working through history to do. And it wasn't to try to keep everybody separate. It was that so people would, quote, seek God, if perhaps they might grope for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. And the end goal of God's ultimate direction of history is illustrated in precisely what Paul was doing. He was crossing borders between towns and regions and peoples to bring the good news to the nations that Israel's God had broken down their borders to make one new man without walls, even big, beautiful, huge walls that Mexico's going to pay for.
Right.